2024 is just about over, and while most parks are going into hibernation mode, it is always a blast to look back at what 2024 brought us. While not a great year for the industry, 2024 for myself was an incredible year where I was able to cross off a lot of my all-time most anticipated bucket list coasters, while also getting back to some parks where a revisit has been a long time coming. However, while it's fun to reminisce about a great year we had, it's equally fun to dream about what 2025 will bring. So join me as we count down the best moments of 2024 while also counting down some of the biggest things to look forward to in 2025. Plus, maybe a few surprises along the way. In total, I rode 29 new roller coasters in 2024. While not as big as 2023, I still managed to cross off a ton of bucket list coasters this year, with some ending up as all-time greats. 2024 brought me to 10 parks. This year, only 3 of these parks I have visited recently, being my home park of Kings Island, Cedar Point, and Disney's Animal Kingdom. 2 are parks I've been to, but it has been the first time in nearly a decade or more, being Carowinds and Knoebels. The remaining 5 are all new parks, with some being smaller parks such as Stricker's Grove and Fun Spot Atlanta, the others being major additions, the 2 notable ones being Hershey Park and Holiday World. Kicking off my top 10 new credits is an absolute classic wooden coaster, the Raven. Greeting you as you enter Holiday World, the former Golden Ticket Award winner for Best Wooden Coaster is packed with tons of fantastic airtime. From starting your way down a decently steep first drop through a tunnel, flying over a lake, and then the excellent finale where you dive down into the woods, blazing past trees in the dense forest. As fantastic as the Raven is during the day, at night it's a whole nother level, especially with that dive into the woods. Going from wood to steel, Stormrunner is short in length but packs a massive punch in its small layout. It felt fantastic feeling that hydraulic launch again for the first time in 9 years. The launch itself sure is the highlight, but I do love how Intamin made this layout really quirky. Every other hydraulic launch I've experienced is all about speed and height, while not much else to do with the layout. Stormrunner, on the other hand, hits a funky top hat after launching, diving down into the hill, and after Immelman hits one of the most fun named inversions out there, the Flying Snake Dive. Stormrunner is a blast and one I would love to lap if I had the chance. Heading back to Wood and Holiday World, the Legend is one of the most surprising coasters I went on in 2024. I have always heard the airtime on the Raven made it special, and of course the monolithic beast on the other side of the park were outstanding woodies. I was blown away by the quality of the Legend. First off, unlike the Raven, it is a very long coaster at 4,042 feet. The Legend does focus more on laterals than airtime, but there are some fantastic moments of airtime through its large layout. Just like all the coasters at Holiday World, the Legend is such an easy coaster to lap over and over again. Number 7 was on my bucket list for a long time, and finally after hearing all its incredible ejector airtime, I was finally able to experience Skyrush in all its glory. This thing has one of the strongest moments of ejector airtime I've ever experienced. Starting off with a wicked fast haul up the lift hill, you experience one of the best first drops I've ever experienced. With that twist to the right, this is one hell of a way to start a ride out. Immediately powering into an airtime hill, you hit such incredible ejector airtime. Then after a high-speed turnaround, you get blasted with another. The first 3 elements of Skyrush might be one of the best ways to start a coaster anywhere. However, I did feel that after such a strong intro, the second half of the coaster was a little bit tamer. Regardless, this is a fantastic coaster. However, part of me does wish I got there a little sooner to see if I would have hated the old restraints. Number 6 takes us to my previous home park at Carowinds. It was my first time coming back in 8 years, and while I did get a new appreciation of re-riding Fury 325, what has slid up into my number 2 spot overall, Copperhead Strike managed to almost steal the show from Fury and solidly gives Carowinds an excellent 1-2 punch. While I've now ridden 212 roller coasters, Copperhead was the first I had been on that really focuses on hang time, something this roller coaster excels at. Starting off with an awesome JoJo roll, giving that first dose of amazing hang time right out of the station. And while the launch was weak, it gets the job done. When Copperhead is not focusing on making you feel like you're going to be falling out of your seat, it also has excellent moments of ejector airtime sprinkled throughout the layout. Copperhead really does remind me a lot of Maverick, if Maverick had moments of hang time in its layout. When I came to return visit to Carowinds, I was expecting Copperhead Strike to be a good ride, but left having this be my all-time favorite roller coaster that focuses on inversions. I would happily lap Copperhead and Fury all day long. While Skyrush has been the star of Hershey Park for over a decade, last year RMC came in to do what they do best. Take an old boring wooden coaster layout and make it the best ride in the park. Wildcat's Revenge was hyped up big time, some saying it's one of RMC's best. While I wouldn't go that far myself, it's still an outstanding coaster. I am a sucker for any coaster that has a pre-lift section, and Wildcat's Revenge has one of the best. While I do think that RMCs shine best when their first drop is 90 degrees or more, Wildcat's Revenge first drop at 82 degrees is no slouch and gets the job done. This layout is filled with incredible moments of ejector that you would expect to find on any RMC conversion, along with other great moments of hang time with its stall and snappy inversions. While I personally don't think this coaster is the best at any of the previous elements I mentioned, Wildcat's Revenge is such a great mix of tons of different elements all put together to be a great roller coaster. From one RMC to another, Air Force One for sure wins the award for the best roller coaster that looks like it doesn't belong in its own park. But I am so glad it's there. There is probably no better coaster on the planet that is better when you factor in how little you have to wait for it, as you can lap this thing all day long. This relatively short layout packs a massive punch. Just like Wildcat's Revenge, the steep but non-vertical drop packs a decent punch, but I do wish it could have made it all the way to vertical. However, this is my only complaint I have for this nearly perfect layout. The Trust Dive is incredible and so whippy in the back row. The speed hill gives a great pop of ejector before going into the best stall I've ever been on. One I only think Zadra has a chance of dethroning. The Outer Bank hill is just a smaller version of possibly my favorite element of all time. The arcade roll showcases how RMC has perfected their zero-G rolls and delivers one of the best inversions of all time. Then, the quad down is just an incredible finale to an insane roller coaster. I cannot express how amazing this coaster is just south of Atlanta. It managed to slide into my number 2 RMC. Yes, even ahead of Iron Gwazi. Fight me. Number 3 is technically not a new credit, but it has been almost 20 years since I last rode it, and I had next to no memories of riding it, and it's the Golden Ticket Award winner for the best wooden coaster, Phoenix. This coaster and the rest of Knoebels absolutely lives up to the hype. It's one of only a handful of coasters out there that truly makes me feel like I'm gonna fall out of it. It's glass smooth, while also delivering some of the best airtime in the world. The double up into the double down is truly one of the best elements out there, and especially on the double down, slamming you into that buzz bar, where you are standing while getting airtime. There are several moments where you are rammed in that buzz bar, making you wonder how you're still on the train as you are inches above your seat. On paper, this 78-foot tall wooden coaster should not be as great as it is, but I highly recommend everyone heads to the wonderful park of Knoebels and gets on the back row ride of this awesome coaster. Number 2 is easily the luckiest new credit from 2024, where I thankfully got 3 rides on the ill-fated Top Thrill 2. Obviously, it's no fun what happened this season, and I cannot wait to 2025 once things are figured out. However, the ride itself is incredible. The only downside is the first launch, where as expected, it's not too punchy, but gets the job done. Heading to the rollback, which also just fine. However, once you start accelerating 101 miles an hour backwards into the monolithic 420-foot tall spike, that's when things really get going. The pull up into the spike is intense, and the airtime you get as gravity takes over is fantastic. As you come screaming back down to earth, accelerating to 120 miles an hour, you rocket over the top hat faster than ever. As someone who has ridden Top Thrill Dragster many times, you for sure are going over that top hat much quicker, giving some amazing ejector airtime at 420 feet. Thanks to the speed and the higher center of gravity, the spiral down is absolutely amazing and whippy. I have full confidence that Cedar Point and Zamperla are going to get this thing up and running reliably in 2025, and I cannot wait to be standing in line for this amazing coaster next year. Number 1 was really no contest. This has been one of my top bucket list coasters for years, and holy crap does the Voyage live up to all the hype. This is one of the coasters out there that feels like it will never end in the best way possible. Dividing its 6,442 feet of track into 3 separate acts, the Voyage is truly a masterpiece. From the amazing 163-foot drop, you head into massive airtime hills reminiscent of B&M Hyper's Camelback Hills. To make sure the profiling is maximized, the Gravity Group and Holiday World went the extra mile digging out 7 tunnels to maximize the optimal profiling as the Voyage is fighting gravity climbing up a hill before the best turnaround section on any roller coaster, the Spaghetti Bowl. Filled with tons of moments of small but powerful pops of airtime, this section blasts through the Indiana forest. With 2 amazing 90-degree bank turns and a few more pops of airtime, you head to the much-needed breather for just a moment in the mid-course brake run. However, while you finally slow down, you are 90 feet above the station thanks to the terrain, and now the Voyage takes full advantage of the massive amount of potential energy it has collected. With a triple down in the dark of a tunnel, you go faster and faster, snaking side to side before blasting past the station and finally hitting the brakes. The Voyage is probably the greatest layout ever built, and it does truly feel like a journey. This is one of 4 roller coasters I've been on that I consider perfect, and I cannot wait to get more laps on this masterpiece. There are a lot of amazing plans in 2025 for park productions, but before we look forward, I wanted to look back and award some amazing moments in 2024. Starting off with the most surprising attraction of 2024, Copperhead Strike. I have already talked a good bit about this ride in my rankings, but I went in expecting Copperhead to be a good ride, but I did not expect to be as great as it was. Now, on the other side of the coin, my most disappointing attraction of 2024 was Candymonium at Hershey Park. I figured a B&M Hyper could not do any wrong and had to be packed with tons of floater airtime. Unfortunately, not for my one ride I got this past August, where the back row ride was lacking in the airtime department heavily. I have heard the front row has the best airtime, so hopefully for my next ride I get on Candymonium, it will redeem itself. While never the top reason I want to visit a park, food has been getting better and better at the parks, and this year has been no exception to experiencing fantastic food. It should come to no surprise that the park that wins the Golden Ticket Award for Best Food gets this spot as well, but Knoebels brought the best culinary experience in 2024 for me. Specifically their burger located right next to Phoenix. Also, shout out to their fried alligator bites. They were incredible. Best overall new park visit in 2024 goes to Holiday World. I have heard so much of this park for well over a decade, now close to 2, and I was finally able to make my trip down to the middle of nowhere, Indiana, to get onto some of, if not the best wooden coasters out there. There is so much to love about this park outside of their amazing coasters, along with their food, free soft drinks, as well as fun, quirky theming. I am so thrilled I have purchased a 2025 season pass because I cannot wait to make many visits this upcoming season. Best overall park day also goes to Holiday World, specifically my second visit during Friday Night Lights. When I heard the park that never wants to stay open into the night was centering a new event in 2024, I had to buy a ticket and make a trip down. Getting to lap possibly the greatest night ride in the world over and over again was just pure joy. If you haven't checked it out already, check out my vlog from this day in the top right corner. Before looking forward to my most anticipated attractions of 2025, for my most anticipated new park, while Dollywood looks incredible and will easily be my most anticipated in the United States, Europa Park has so much going for it. It's impossible to not put it at number 1. Not only thanks to Voltron, but Europa is filled with so many great looking attractions. While the roller coasters, I think I know what to expect, the dark rides I have intentionally kept myself in the dark about, as I know there are many fantastic additions at this park, and to keep myself spoiler free, I have left them off this list. Normally I would only rank my top 10, but with 53 new credits coming this year, ranking my top 15 most anticipated new coasters and attractions for the next year seemed most adequate. Kicking off my most anticipated is a fantastic looking GCI, Woden at Europa Park. While I have only ridden 6 GCIs, each and every one of them has surprised me in their quality. I have always heard that this is one of the best GCIs out there, and along with their great theming and fun looking layout, I expect Woden to be knocking on my door with some of my favorite wooden coasters. While Fly is one of my all-time favorite coasters thanks to its incredible theming and graceful but still forceful ride, Tatsu at Magic Mountain looks to be one while lacking in theming really cranks up the intensity with high-speed maneuvers. Manta's pretzel loop nearly ripped my face off, and I can only imagine how crazy a 120-foot tall pretzel loop will do to me. Another one that could really surprise me, especially since its French cousin sits in my top 5, Pantheon looks to be an amazing ride. While lacking in the theming of Toutatis, Pantheon still looks to have a great layout. Plus, I cannot wait to experience the airtime hills on the switch track section again. Kentucky Kingdom has 2 great looking coasters. One we will get into in a little bit, but Lightning Run looks like such an intense powerhouse filled with so many moments of great airtime. Obviously, I've never experienced the Chance GTX model since this is the only one of its kind still. Its small airtime hills look to deliver extremely powerful moments of airtime. Going right across the park is one of 5 new RMCs for 2025 for myself, Storm Chaser. This will be my first true mid-size RMC, and from what I can gather, from the twisted first drop to the many moments of powerful airtime, Storm Chaser looks to give its larger RMC cousins a run for its money. Kicking off my top 10 is one I have technically been on, but like Phoenix, since it's been well over a decade since my one and only ride, I barely remember riding X2. From what I can remember, X2 is pure insanity. I cannot wait to experience the near vertical drop while in a skydiving-like position. All the crazy maneuvers through its short but packed layout looks to be insane. My only concern is the potential roughness, but hopefully I will overcome that, and this will be one of my all-time favorite coasters. Next up is one that should not be on this list, but due to some bad luck for my one and only visit to my favorite park on the planet, Black Mamba looks to be a truly excellent B&M invert. One I would not be surprised if it ranks as my all-time favorite invert. While far from the biggest invert, actually I think it might actually be the shortest, Black Mamba looks to pack such an incredible punch and is entrenched with amazing looking theming. Combined with the plentiful near misses, and Black Mamba should reign high despite its larger counterparts. Similar in layout to my number 11 spot, Twisted Timbers looks to be another fantastic looking RMC that packs a great punch into a smaller layout. Along with a unique twisted drop, Twisted Timbers looks to have so many incredible moments, from the triple camelbacks with loads of crazy ejector airtime and several offset airtime moments. I can see why many consider Twisted Timbers to be the best of the small to mid-size RMCs. Considering how similar in layout the two are, I am intrigued to see which coaster ranks higher overall when it is all said and done. 2025 may be the year of RMCs, as of the end of 2024, I have ridden 6 RMCs. That number will nearly double in 2025 to 11. Twisted Colossus has one of the most unique looking layouts of any RMC and coaster in the world, with the ingenious Mobius loop setup giving so many amazing moments of ejector airtime, especially with the amazing looking Top Gun stall. I cannot wait to get tons of laps on this crazy coaster. Now, hopefully I'm lucky enough to actually get a duel, since sadly in more recent years, it's been more often than not you will be going through this layout designed to duel by yourself unless the second train gets dispatched perfectly. Just like Black Mamba, this next entry was a missed opportunity thanks for being down both days I was at Phantasialand. Chiapas. Commonly regarded as the best water ride in the world, Chiapas is filled with so many fun surprises along this amazing theming and a great layout. Now, the only issue is I'll be riding in early December, but I don't care. I need to experience this amazing looking flume. Just like X2, this next coaster is one I've ridden before. In fact, I have several rides on it. Ghost Rider. If I've ridden several times, why is it on this list? My last ride was back in 2015, right before it received a much needed retracking from GCI, which evidently the ride runs not only much better now, but also feels different than before. This massive wooden coaster looks to be filled with tons of airtime along its layout, and I cannot wait to see how Ghost Rider is once I get back to Knott's in early January. The only new for 2025 to crack my most anticipated is Cedar Point's Surprise Coaster Edition, Siren's Curse. A next-gen Vekoma tilt coaster should be great on its own. With honestly more than a gimmick for a first drop, this should be an excellent drop. However, the rest of the layout also looks amazing, with tons of whippy inversions along with some great moments of ejector airtime. I think this is a great preview of what's to come with next-gen Vekomas to the United States, and I'm all here for it. Going into my top 3, and all 3 of these are ones that are very high on my bucket list overall. This April, I am making a highly anticipated first trip down to Dollywood. How I managed to never make my way to this park when I only lived a few hours away 10 years ago is a mystery to me. But I am finally righting that wrong. Top of the list is easily adding yet another RMC and my first Topper Track Woody, Lightning Rod. While I know a lot has been replaced with iBox Track and the awesome but problematic launch is now gone, this layout still looks incredible with massive wave turns, big drops, and the quad down the side of the mountain looks to be an all-time great finale. I am a sucker for terrain coasters, and this RMC looks to be an all-time great. Another coaster that I should have crossed off my list a long time ago, and I'm finally making my way up to there, is for Panthera, or whatever it's called. Intimidator 305. This is the last Giga I have left in North America to ride, and it does truly look to be an all-time great. Probably the most intense roller coaster in the world, I-305 focuses heavily on positive Gs along with very whippy transition. I think there's a great chance I will love this coaster. I just have to wonder, is it too intense for me? I do seem to handle positive Gs very well, and I think this will rank as an all-time great. We will just have to wait and see when I make my trip to Virginia late this summer. Number 1 on this list, not only easily my most anticipated for 2025, but it honestly has a decent shot at cracking into my top 5 overall, maybe even gunning for that number 1 spot, and that is Voltron at Europa Park. This very highly themed Mach Striker coaster looks to bring a great story to life, but has one hell of a layout. With a beyond vertical launch to start the ride, along with 7 inversions, tons of ejector airtime, multiple launches, a turntable that goes into a swing launch section, there isn't much this coaster doesn't do. Voltron really reminds me of Fly at Phantasialand, filled with tons of great theming and giving a great ride. But Voltron, while not quite as well themed as Fly, gives a better looking layout that I cannot wait to get tons of rides in next December. 2025 looks to be one of, if not the best year for myself, with so many amazing bucket list coasters being knocked off. Everything kicks off early January when I will be returning to Southern California to go back to one of my favorite parks, Disneyland. I will also be returning to Knott's for the first time since 2015 and Magic Mountain for the first time since 2011. April should bring me to my first visit to Dollywood. Sometime in the summer, we will be heading to Virginia for my first visits to King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg. While there'll be returns to some of my favorite parks throughout the summer, 2025 will end with a trip trip I've planning for almost 2 years. When we fly back to Germany, enjoy the amazing Christmas markets, while also spending 2 days at Europa Park and 2 days back at my favorite theme park on the planet, Phantasialand. So, if you've not done so already, make sure you subscribe to Park Production to see what we have in store for 2025. This could be an all-time great year.